The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Community Talk Radio. This is Project Independence and You on LIU Public Radio. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with co-host Otto Lohse and radio show producer Kristina, who is also the Director of Senior Citizen Affairs for the Department of Services for the Aging, Project Independence for the town of North Hempstead. Good morning. How are you both?
Good
Morning.
Ready for action?
Ready? You ready, Otto? Okay, so let's get right to it.
I find this to be a very intriguing topic.
I know. I'm so excited. So the topic this morning is Sensi 24/7 AI virtual care. Our guest is Gregg Balbera, who is the owner of Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. And Gregg's been on the show a lot talking about home care on Long Island. So thank you so much for joining us this morning. How are you?
I am well, and thank you for having me as always.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show. So as Otto said in the beginning, we are very interested in this topic. We were starting to hear a lot about AI. And of course, this topic about virtual care is so important today, especially for our seniors who are homebound and or maybe just recovering from something at home. So we want to hear all about it. So maybe if you want to just give us kind of an overview and we can get into all of the questions that we have.
Sure. So we partnered with Sensi last year, and we have kind of taken it to the next level. So what Sensi is a artificial intelligence AI product that we are able to match along with our hands-on physical care that we provide, in the home, wherever the home is. So what Sensi does is over the course of the first week, we place 3 audio pods in the client's home. They're not cameras; they're strictly audio based, and they're all fully HIPAA compliant. So in fact, probably 98 or 99% of what the audio pods pick up actually gets deleted, is not saved anywhere. And over the course of the first week, what the product Sensi is able to do is determine what is normal, what is baseline for that given client. So for someone that has cognitive issues, it's able to understand after that week, perhaps how often they go to the bathroom, or if they're at risk of falls. It also helps people that don't have cognitive disorders. It could just be simply fall disorders or medicine management. As an example, which we can get into later, we also had a client who recently lost a spouse, and what the audio, what Sensi picked up was that every night around 9 o'clock, she was verbalizing suicidal ideations. So in discussing with the Sensi team, we decided what we were going to do is we were going to have a family member call this client each night around 8:30, about a half an hour before the time where we saw that she was having those thoughts, those negative thoughts. So on a rotating basis, different family members would call her every night of the week around 8:30, 8:45, keep her on the phone for a half an hour or so. And that connection with the family actually provided enough of a positive impetus that those thoughts soon went away. So that's one example. We can talk about other examples as we get further along in the show here, but I think that's certainly a great example of how the system learns. Obviously, artificial intelligence is it's not static; it's always learning. So that was a great example of how this Sensi was learning and was able to pick up on this particular client's issues, and how we were able to formulate a plan that created a much more safe environment for that particular client.
Gregg, I try to visualize now my house. Let's say it's me, all right? And you're going to come in. Are you going to come in and your company install these 3 audio devices?
Yes, great question. So someone from my team, whether it's my nurse, my social worker, or myself, will come in. The 3 devices, we generally try and place them in high traffic areas. So oftentimes it could be the bedroom, it could be a kitchen, could be the den. If a particular client is spending a lot of time in a recliner or a chair watching TV, or that's where they spend the majority of their day. It could be a bathroom. Again, there's no cameras. It's just, it's just audio. So we do install it. Currently, the Sensi audio pods are capable of being hooked up to a client's own Wi-Fi system. But currently, at this time, we're actually providing our own Wi-Fi, which is independent from the house. So if something happens to the client's Wi-Fi, they don't pay a bill by accident or something, ours stay on 24/7. So we're constantly getting the feedback and the audio that we need for the system to learn.
Now, you said audio only, so that means that there are no cameras involved, or could there be cameras involved?
This system has no cameras whatsoever. I think one of the biggest objections people have to these types of systems in the home are based on what they feel could be intrusions into their personal lives. So video or cameras definitely seems to be number one at the top of the list. So we've gone with strictly or Sensi has gone strictly with audio.
Now, these audio pods, are they like smart speakers or
I would say they're somewhat
smartphones?
similar to in they're somewhat similar to like an Alexa, not necessarily that size. Probably ours are a little bit smaller, but they definitely serve a somewhat similar purpose.
It's funny you mentioned Alexa because I had a question. Is there any interaction with the resident and the audio pods? Like, could they say something? Is there a response that would come back, or is it just going to like record and it's just kind of like following to make these kind of judgment calls and then feed you the information?
Sure. So that's another great question. So at this time, they're strictly one way. There's no audio coming back, directing a client to do something. What basically happens is if something happens that triggers, and there are high level or mid level or low level type alerts that we get here. So when the audio pods pick up something that's abnormal based on previous activity, again, that's the AI feature. We are notified here at Right at Home. Then someone from my team will either reach out to the client themselves, or if there's a loved one living in the house with the client, or sometimes we're calling, a son, a daughter, a niece, a nephew, a neighbor. Every situation is completely different. But we are reaching out. We can also call 911 if we have to, based on if there's something really drastic going on in the house. Well, we could do that also. So the alerts we get are high level, mid level, low level.
Now, I read you've been using or announced using this system since July.
Correct.
I was just curious, first of all, two things really. How far back does Sensi go with this system? And then how has your experience been? I'm sure there's learning going on because it's new, which is
Sure.
understandable.
So
How's
Sensi's
it
been around for
going?
a few years longer than we have had it. I think for probably 3 or 5 years, earlier. Obviously, with all artificial intelligence, the more data the system gets, the more intelligent it gets. It's constantly learning each and every day. It's constantly evolving. So we felt we had spoken with Sensi previous to that, but we felt we wanted to see how some of their experiences were going, maybe with some other clients before we jumped in, and we finally got to a point where we felt that there was a real comfort level for us that what the system was doing, what they were promising, was something that really made sense for us and for our clients. And again, would be a real natural fit and a tie-in with the physical hands-on care that we provide, through the use of our aides and companions.
Now, have you, Right at Home, had a number of installations since July?
Oh yeah, we're currently in about 15 homes.
15, okay.
Yep.
And who makes the evaluation for the client? Do you make a recommendation based on your maybe a home care person who goes into the home that this person would benefit from it?
So also another great question. Oftentimes the way we work is we're generally getting an initial phone call from either the client themselves or from a spouse, adult child, a neighbor, a niece, a nephew, grandchildren sometimes. So a lot of times in that first conversation that we're having, and those conversations can last anywhere from a half an hour to 2 hours, because we're really trying to learn as much as we can about the client initially. So, in that initial phone call, we're asking a lot of probing questions. We're actually trying to allow the person who's calling us to give us as much information as possible. So from there, we're kind of able to make a determination whether this client would really be a good prospect. I mean, I think ultimately down the road, probably almost everybody would be a good prospect to having this type of care. But the way we are working now is, a lot of that is going on in our initial, our initial inquiry call with our clients. Then once the client decides they're moving forward with us, depending upon the client and the case, we're sending our social worker or our full-time RN into the house. And when they're in the house, they're really making that determination, talking about it with the client, usually with the other interested party, and then they're doing the install pretty much on the spot.
So
What's
I'm sorry.
I was just
This
going
is
to ask the
complete-
cost factor.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So currently the cost is something that we are not even charging clients. We have basically made the decision at this point, because it's a new product, because we are still learning about it ourselves. We ourselves are basically picking up the cost ourselves, and we're basically providing it, free of cost to our clients at this time. That may change down the future, but I think that helps differentiate us from a lot of our competition out there. There's definitely home care competition. Obviously, we think we're better at it than most of our competitors, and I think this definitely helps to differentiate us. Just another added layer of service that we can provide that most of our competitors are certainly not offering at this time.
Now,
So the price is right.
This is completely independent of any smart speakers or any smartphones or microphones or security cameras or whatever. This is a self-contained system.
Correct. So again, it's 3 speakers, not much larger than the size of maybe an iPhone, a little bit thicker than an iPhone, placed again strategically throughout the house. No cameras, no other equipment than that.
Now they're obviously super sensitive to sound. I would say that's probably one of the big features of these pods. And they're totally wireless, or are they connected?
They're totally wireless, and as I said, we provide our own Wi-Fi base at this time, so that we're not even infringing upon the client's Wi-Fi. And one of the things that we have to be careful of is if we put it in a den or that there's a TV, we have to strategically place it. If we place it too close to a TV, it can be picking up sounds from a TV and think that's what's coming from the house as opposed to just through a TV. So we have to be somewhat strategic and careful about where we place the audio pods, in that scenario as well.
Now, I then, as the patient, if you will, could move these pods if it's there. I mean, obviously it's wireless, so it's not connected to anything.
Well, they're plugged in. The audio pods are plugged in. So if a client were to unplug one and then try and plug it in somewhere else, we actually get a notification that it was unplugged. So that will prompt some action from our office to find out exactly what happened, because they may not plug it back in correctly, or once they unplug it and move it, it may possibly lose a link to the Wi-Fi system. So if we have to, we'll go back and we'll make sure that it's reconnected properly.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Frankly, I mean, I've known some people who have done a lot of different things as they get older, and they might just say, forget this thing. I'm going to put it over here in the closet. I think limiting the ability to move it is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think it's important to differentiate it a little bit from the Alexa and the iHome, which can be a little bit more two-way in nature, and are also listening in an effort to, gather data to sell you something. We're not looking to sell anything. We're just looking to provide a higher level of care in the home. As I said, 98% of the information, because it's a HIPAA compliant system, 99% of the information basically is just getting eradicated almost immediately. We're not using any of this information to come back and try and sell absolutely anything, to the client.
I have a question about the information. So AI, so if there's no incident in the home, or even if there is, all the information that's being kind of learned and collected, are you kind of made aware of it? Like, is it just for, I mean, for informational purposes, like you're learning trends of the person living at home, like, like you gave that example of the woman who recently was widowed and was kind of, had the ideations of suicide. It what the information that AI is learning over a period of time, where does that information go? Because it seems like it would be helpful to you and to the family members. So,
Sure.
yeah, that's
So,
my kind
so
of
again,
question.
all the information is being stored in the cloud, and then
Right,
we do get reports off based on every client. So we're getting alerts, as I said, we're getting high level, mid, or low level reports when there are anomalies which we need to act upon, basically in a timely manner. But we're also getting other reports which are giving us information about the client, their med, their med compliant, if they're having certain issues with activities of daily living that we need to be aware of, that could be potential fall risks in the future. So we're actually getting quite a bit of information, so that
right,
we kind of build almost like a case study for the client, so that we're aware of what the system is learning, so that when we get an anomaly, we can compare that to what's been previously reported, so that we're aware of what the issue is.
right,
Can
right.
the
Like even
client
sleep
speak?
patterns.
Can the client say, oh, I have a problem, I'm not feeling good? Uh,
Yep. So
Basically, they give input that's not their intended input. In other words, it's not something that's just picked up and,
sure. So I think it's important to realize that currently Sensi is not like it's not like a life alert system. It's not designed. And when Sensi first came out, several years ago, they would say that if a client fell, they would notify the provider, in this case, right at home, within 24 hours. So we were like, well, 24 hours, if someone falls, that's really not
Mhm.
timely. But again, they're not a life alert system. They're now down to the point where they alert us within an hour, which we feel is a timely notice.
You know what?
okay.
It's a good time to take a quick break. After the break, we're going to continue talking about Sensi 24/7 AI virtual care with Gregg Balbera, owner of Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. You're listening to Project Independence in You on LIU Public Radio.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
and then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with co-host Otto Lohse and show producer Kristina Liu. We're talking about Sensi 24/7 AI virtual care with Gregg Balbera, owner of Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. So we're really learning a lot about Sensi. So what does Sensi stand for? I assume it's an acronym.
Actually, I don't think it's an acronym. I think it's
No,
short for, for sensing.
sensitive.
Yeah, Sensi.ai is their website. So I think it's short for just, sensing what's going on in the home.
I think you made an important differentiation before, that this is not like a life alert. This is
Right.
a different kind of approach with different goals, I would say. Um, is that true? I mean, the way I'm thinking its
Yeah,
goals are
life
definitely
alerts are definitely geared for one thing primarily, and that's fall detection, right?
right.
Someone falls, and I think one of the differentiations, also another example that I can give you, is that if you have a life alert, sometimes a life alert or similar type pendant, when you fall, it actually requires you to press a button to notify that you've actually gone down. because sometimes people can, someone could lay down, and how does the life alert know the difference between someone who's laying down quickly as opposed to falling down? But we had an example where somebody fell, and as is normal human reaction, if you fall, what's your first instinct? It's to put your hands out in front of you to break your fall. Well, we had a client who fell, broke both wrists, and was unable to press a life alert type button that they had. However, because we have audio pods, kind of like they were able to say into the audio pods, "Hey, I fall and I can't get up. My wrists are, I hurt my wrist, or I broke my wrist." We got the notification, and we're able to send 911 over and notify family members, send 911, right away, and then also notify the family members. So I think that's, an important differentiation between, Sensi and, typical, life alert type systems.
Would like, let's take these 15 homes. Do any of these 15 homes have both installed?
We definitely have a couple of clients that have life alerts type products in addition to Sensi. I think some people have a proclivity to technology and are more adaptable, so they like the technology. Other people are more hesitant, and so again, everybody is different. Just like we see in home care, everybody's needs for home care are very different. I mean, as an example, who is Sensi suited for? So older adults with various support needs. It could be someone living with dementia, someone who requires additional care, people experiencing recent physical or cognitive decline. They're at risk of falls. I think care levels is a great example of what Sensi can be a great tool for. Some people are just very hesitant. They don't want to have care. They tell their adult children they don't want to give up their independence. They're not ready to have somebody in the home, but yet every time the children go to the house, they see a refrigerator that's stocked with rotting or out-of-date food. They see bills, mail just piled up, bills that aren't paid. They see a house where it used to be fastidious, and now it's dirty. There's dishes in the sink. So Sensi can kind of provide some of that, boots on the ground information that someone who's not living at the house might be able to use and go back to their loved one and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, I know you're not ready for care, but these are the things that we're seeing. So why don't we try care? So sometimes people will put care in place, and it might not be the appropriate amount of hours. It might be too many hours, or it might be not enough hours. So sometimes, what Sensi can detect is what's going on, especially if we're only providing, let's say, 4 or 6 hours of care in the home, physically, with our aides and our companions. But Sensi's there 24/7, so we're getting data when the aide isn't there. So sometimes we are getting the type of information that we can go back to the client or go back to again, to their loved one and say, hey, maybe we need to tweak the hours. As an example, we had a client that was getting care starting at 7 o'clock in the morning till noon in the afternoon, because they said that's what time mom gets up, and she needs help getting out of bed and then getting washed and dressed and going to the bathroom and preparing them breakfast and lunch before the aide leaves. Well, it turns out that the client was trying to get out of bed every morning at 5 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. So that 5 to 7 was becoming a very much at-risk time where a significant fall could happen, because this person uses a walker, was very unsteady on their feet. So we had to adjust the hours based off of that. So I think that's a great example of how Sensi learns, and how we can learn from the information that we're getting from Sensi.
I could visualize, like, I'm thinking to myself, well, what kind of audio would you be looking for? And I'm thinking, well, okay, normally my mother watches television every day, but I haven't heard the TV on for 2 days or whatever. Or normally we hear her in the kitchen with the water running, but we didn't hear any water running. These would strike me as being signals that maybe something is going on. What kind of audio? You gave some examples just now.
Yep. So let me give you a couple more examples. I think one of the things that we see a lot of, especially for older adults that with cognitive decline, they're definitely more at risk for urinary tract infections. So one of the things that Sensi can learn is, client A may go to the bathroom, let's say 5 times a day, between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Well, if they're going to the bathroom 15 times a day, Sensi's going to say, well, for the last 3 months, the toilet flushed between 9 and 5 times, and now the toilet is flushed 15 times today. That is a definite red flag that there's a potential UTI. So, catching that UTI in an early stage, getting some antibiotics diagnosed, we're possibly saving an ER visit, possibly saving a hospitalization. UTIs are very treatable with antibiotics, but obviously, the longer they go untreated, the more serious they become. So, I think that's a great example of one of the things that Sensi can detect early and provide intervention. Another example would be, again, someone who's living alone. Sometimes people are just proud. They're very independent. They don't want their family members to think that they require help, even though they might. So, we had an example where a client was not sharing with his family some of the pain and discomfort that he was currently undergoing. However, because he was kind of, moaning and groaning and kind of talking to himself, Sensi was picking up that audio. So we received an alert saying, hey, client B is expressing some level of distress, in his conversation. So again, that was where we were able to intervene early, and with that early detection, we were able to get that client to go see a primary care physician and kind of stop something in its path before it became a serious situation.
Now, my view of this is that all this sound data is going into the cloud somewhere, into a Sensi database, if you will. And obviously, somebody from right at home can't sit there all day and listen to the sounds that are going on. So how does it kind of come up with the key types of information and let you know about it? Is there like that's part of the AI, I'm sure.
Sure,
but
that's exactly what it is. It's the artificial intelligence. So again, that information is not directly coming to right at home. Sensi has their own team. They have built all the artificial intelligence algorithms, and they're constantly learning and modifying and adjusting. As the more data they get, the smarter the system gets. And Sensi has their own team of analysts that are reviewing and overseeing all the data. So it's basically the information travels through Sensi and then back to us, and then we would intervene because ultimately it's our client, it's not Sensi's client. So it's kind of a triangular relationship.
So, but you're getting, in other words, the key pieces of information.
Correct. Yep.
Via Sensi, who has systems and people in place to analyze that and get that to you in a usable format, so it means something. You're getting a key report, if you will.
Absolutely. So again, as I said, we get like we kind of get like what we call a bit of a family report, which kind of gives us like the base for, for each individual client. But then when there's either a high level, a mid level, or a low level, incident, we're getting that, kind of like on the spot so that we can intervene at that point to prevent something from, if it's something that needs to be reported and, if someone's having a heart attack, obviously we want to get them to the, ER, as quickly as possible so that treatment can be, remedied, on the spot. If it's something less, high level, if it's more just like, as I was giving an example before, where something that maybe we need to adjust care hours, and that can be done over the course of, a week or 2 weeks. It doesn't need to be done today, but there needs to be kind of a slight adjustment to a schedule. So there's different examples of how we are reacting to the data that we're getting.
So Sensi is actually they're breaking it down by high, mid, low level so that you can focus on the key first and then work your way down.
Absolutely. That is 100% correct.
It's such a great tool. I mean, I'm hearing all that it's doing, and I just can't stop but think about, this system is perfect for aging in place. I mean, it's just another kind of, in your toolbox of kind of staying in home longer, understanding, and projecting even, what happens in a senior's life who lives alone and wants to age in place. And I mean, there's so many great things, like it's just kind of like even a safety system, alerting everybody. So if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you about this program, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So the best way, they can always contact me at Right at Home. Our phone number is 516-719-5999. My email address is Gregg, Gregg, at rightathomeli.com, RIGHTATHOMELI.com. They can also contact us through our website, which is www.rightathomeli.com. So any of those ways are, fantastic ways to get in touch with us for sure.
I'm curious. So I know that your systems have been in place now since, I assume, sometime in the summer, based on that newsletter. But the systems that have been in place for years now, a couple of years, 3 years, I guess, how that's impacting seniors aging in place. I'm sure there's so much research being done to kind of back up why these systems are so important. Do you have any information on that?
Well, yep, absolutely. So, studies show that 90% of people would prefer to, age in place as opposed to, leave their home for the next whatever number of years that they have. So whether that's a combination of home care or whether it's a combination of Sensi or the combination of the two of them combined, I think is a awesome tool to help keep people age in place. So again, some people need a couple of hours a day, a couple of days a week. Other people need 7 days a week, 24-hour care in place. And I think Sensi can work with any of those clients along the spectrum, from the minimal amount to a 24/7 client, every week, to providing absolute different levels of care and necessity. And I think one of the things also is that Sensi also provides us a lot of feedback with how care is going in the house as well. Sometimes obviously we can't be in the house with our clients all the time. We actually do a lot of supervisory visits. So myself, my RN, my social worker, we are constantly doing unannounced supervisory visits. We like to drop in on our clients and see what's going on with the clients and the caregiver in the house. And we try and do that unannounced because obviously, if you tell a caregiver that you're going to be there at Tuesday at 10 a.m., you may get very different behavior than if you just show up. So we like to really kind of see the moment for what's really going on. So we do a lot of that to begin with. But Sensi actually will also detect both positive and negative interactions between the client and the caregiver. And those reactions can just as much be positive as they can be negative. A lot of times, when there's no conversation, positive or negative, between the two of them in the household, but then all of a sudden, if the Sensi picks up, the client saying, hey Dawn, I want to thank you so much for bringing those cupcakes this morning and remembering my birthday. That really just made me feel really special today. Sensi will pick that up. Sometimes with, for clients that have cognitive decline, they can have changes in behavior. We have clients who, adult children, will call us and say, mom or dad was the sweetest person in the world, but since they started experiencing this cognitive decline a few years ago, we've noticed, especially, sometimes in the afternoon with sundowning, that they can get more agitated, irritated. They can say things that they never used to say. It's almost like a different personality. So Sensi can kind of pick up on those things. So we, as a further example of things that we have detected, is that which clients sundown and which clients don't. So when you know that certain clients sundown, there are certain things that you can do. Light modulation. Often sundowning occurs, as the name would, intimate, when the sun begins to set. So, adjusting the lights in the house to make up so the house doesn't seem as dark when the sun is setting. Changing the temperature in the house, keeping it warm, maybe a little bit longer in the afternoon, especially during these fall and winter months, things of that nature. So those are the additional types of things. There's so many different things that we can pick up and learn from Sensi that it's really we're still learning every day how the system can evolve and be used in so many different critical fashions.
You know, I think that's a super important area, by the way. I had the experience with my mother lived with us for 11 years, and caregivers are lots of good ones out there. Many people with big hearts will do that. And then there are some that, you know, maybe they shouldn't really be doing that. Let's face facts, all right?
Yep.
And I think the fact that you can try to get some input as to the the quality, if you will, or the amount, the quality of the care that is being given by a home caregiver, I think is very important. Can that system be shut off? That's a question we can go back to.
Right. So, yeah, Otto, well, let's get back to that great question. After the break, we'll continue talking about Sensi, the 24/7 AI virtual care with Gregg Balbera, who's the owner of Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. You're listening to Project Independence in You on LIU Public Radio.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host, Otto Lohse, and of course, show producer, Kristina Liu. Just wanted to talk a little bit about how you can follow and listen and watch Project Independence in You. You can watch Project Independence in You and Talk of the Town on North Hempstead TV, channels 18 or 65, on Optimum or channel 46 on Verizon Fios, and on North Shore TV. The shows usually air at 2 p.m. Please visit www.myNHTV.com for up-to-date schedules. You can also watch online at the WCWP Studios YouTube channel or the Project Independence in You website. So we're going to get back to our guest, Gregg Balbera, who's here talking about Sensi, the 24/7 AI virtual care. And Gregg, of course, is with Right at Home, Nassau, Suffolk. So I know right before break, Otto, you had a question if you want to kind of recap.
Yeah, I think it's very important that the system can give you somewhat of a feel, supplementing visits that are made such by Right at Home, about the quality of the caregiver. You know, most caregivers are sincere and really want to do what they're doing and mean it. And then once in a while, you'll get some that are a little, maybe not quite as good as you would like them to be. So this is helpful that you can get input to sort of review that. But one of the questions I had is, can that system be shut off? You know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Since it can be turned off or muted at any time, I would say there really is no need to, because it's only picking up anomalies with regards to care. It's not really picking up other interactions, or as I said before, you know, 99% of what it hears basically is eliminated immediately. So, you know, just normal conversation is getting eliminated. It's not saved anywhere. It's not used. But that being said, you know, if somebody wants to turn it off, if they want to get rid of the product, that's never a problem. You know, we're not forcing this on anybody.
Well, I mean, more so what I'm thinking is I'm sort of like a caregiver who's had some issues, let's say, right? And I figure, well, maybe what I'm going to do is just shut this thing off, and then they won't have any idea what's going on. Or I'm a client, and
Sure.
like I've had my aunt going back, used to put all her pills in a flower pot. You know, she was fighting the system, and there are clients who are going to fight the system. You know, basically, maybe shut this particular system off. And I was just wondering if you could detect that, first of all.
Yep. As we mentioned earlier, so the Sensis are actually plugged in. So if a caregiver were to unplug a unit because they were perhaps going to do something untoward, or really not what they're supposed to be doing. As soon as a unit is unplugged, we get an immediate notification. So we would call the house and say, hey, the unit, and the units are marked. It could be bedroom, den, bathroom, kitchen, whatever. We can say, hey, the den unit was unplugged. Please plug it back in. If we see that it's not plugged in, either myself, my nurse, my RN would drive to the house and make sure that it's plugged back in. Obviously, if we see some type of trend where it's constantly being unplugged by, a caregiver, that's kind of a bit of a heads up that something might be going on that, we need to intervene, in that situation.
Now, the initial analysis strikes me as being very important, where you put these 3 pods, where the action is. But is there also a piece to this where are all the end targets the same for everybody? Or are there certain situations where maybe they're looking for different results? Like, for what example, I can't think of. And let's talk about, I don't really care if she shuts the water off or on. What are the end results always the same for everybody?
I think, again, as in home care, I think every client is unique, every situation is unique, and every care plan that we develop for every client, no 2 care plans are identical. So Sensi can be used for, again, a variety of things. And just to kind of run down the list, it could be for care hours accuracy. It can be for fall prevention. It could be for mental distress and cognitive decline. It can be for early detection of infection. It could be for medical management. So there is a variety of issues that Sensi is designed for us to learn about, learn how it's impacting our clients, and when we need to intervene. So it's absolutely different for everybody. There's no one size fits all model for everybody here. Everybody is unique, and so is the care plan and how Sensi fits into that care plan. So again, Sensi is just another tool in our arsenal, right? I mean, we have the physical caregivers in place, the aides, the companions. Sensi is a side-by-side, component to that. So everyone's care plan is different. How Sensi interacts with that care plan really varies from client to client.
I'll tell you, the price is right.
That's what I said, yeah.
It
So
seems
it
like a no-brainer to make it part of your program.
Yeah, it really is wonderful. And so for your clients, obviously you guys are monitoring it and it's no charge. But what if an individual wants Sensi, someone in the family, can you ever opt to do that as just kind of an individual?
Sure, we haven't been approached for that, but that's something that we have considered. But it would definitely be a fraction of the cost of having, a home, an aide or a companion in the house. It would be, I'm not exactly sure of the price yet because we haven't really kind of dealt with that situation. But I can tell you it would be a substantial fraction of what somebody would pay for an aide in the house.
I mean, just for somebody who maybe is listening and has a relative that's not on Long Island and doesn't have access to a home care agency like yours, but would definitely benefit from something like that. Is there like a Sensi 800 number or something where an individual would be able to get it, or do you have to be kind of
Yeah, you have
associated?
to. Sensi only works through the agencies that they're
Okay.
partnering with. So if someone listening is interested, again, feel free to call me 516-719-5999 and talk about it. But I would say if you probably to put a Sensi in a house, you're probably looking at $50 or $60 a day. When you think about the cost of an aide could be $30 to $30+ an hour. That's a substantial discount, and you're getting 24/7 coverage.
Do you know yet if there is insurance covering this at all?
I don't believe there is at this point.
Okay.
Now,
Fair
one
enough.
of
That's new.
there's a phrase here: manage limited access to the dashboard. What is the dashboard, and what does that mean?
So again, the information that Sensi compiles is then processed by the team at Sensi themselves. That information is not coming directly to Right at Home. So we
That's
have
the
a dashboard.
dashboard.
Yep. So
Right.
they have a dashboard. which they're filling in the information that they're compiling. And then we see our version of the dashboard. So, all the information they're building about each individual client is built into that. So we can go in and review what it's telling us about each individual client. And then also on our dashboard, if there's again, a high level, a mid-level, or a low-level event, we receive that not only in our dashboard, but we'll also get emails, text messages, and phone calls from Sensi's team. So we're kind of notified in 4 different manners, just so in case someone happens to not be looking at their dashboard on their computer, an email, a phone call, a text message. They're pretty much trying to hit us over the head in as many ways possible so that we know something is going on with the client at that time so we can react to it.
So to clarify, I is the son, let's say, of a client. I don't have a dashboard that I'm playing around with.
Correct. The
Okay.
information is coming to us, and then we can print out reports and give those reports to the clients if they want them. Not some people do, some people don't. Some people, it can be a lot of information, and some people really just kind of want the high level 20,000 view of what's going on.
Is there electronic access to that kind of information?
Not for the client currently, but for us here, again, we have our dashboard via Sensi.
Rebecca Miller had to step out for a second, so I'm popping in. She passed the baton over to me. And now, Gregg Balbera, you've been on the show so many times. I mean, I can't express what a great partnership we have with Right at Home. And in addition, obviously, to this new Sensi, you guys provide so many other services. So we'd love to kind of just get a little overview of all those other services Right at Home provides.
Sure. Thank you for that. So again, my wife Eileen and I own and operate Right at Home. We have 2 offices, one in Plainview and one in Smithtown. We are a licensed home care service agency, so that means we are governed by the New York State Department of Health. As a licensed agency, all of our caregivers are employees, not independent contractors, so that's important for a couple of reasons. One, all of our aides are bonded and insured, so God forbid if an aide were to get hurt working in the home of the client, if they file a workers' comp claim, which could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, that claim is against us, not against the client. We're completely insured. If an aide decides they don't want to work anymore, file for unemployment insurance, same thing. That unemployment claim would be against us, not against the, not against the client. We also background check. We drug test all of our aides. We do that on an ongoing basis, and we provide a variety of services. From hourly to 24/7, and 24/7 care can be both hourly or live-in. As far as the different services we provide, safety supervision, fall prevention, assistance with personal care, bathing, toileting, dressing, meal preparation, med reminders, light housekeeping, driving. So our aides can drive clients to doctor's appointments, food shopping, the pharmacy, take them to local libraries, a lot of programming, senior centers, anything local. We also, when the weather is nice, we encourage our aides to get our clients out of the house. We'd rather have them, take a walk around the block, exercise those muscles, maybe go have lunch on a bench in a park and watch the kids play on the playground instead of watch, 10 straight episodes of The Price is Right at home, which, while it's a great show, 10 episodes day after day after day can, definitely lead to depression. So, those are, I think, are, the different services we provide. As I said, we have a full-time RN on staff. We have a full-time social worker who's our client care coordinator. We see every client at a minimum, if not more often, at least once a quarter, probably more than that. We like to do, as I said, unannounced supervisory visits. We try and provide what we consider concierge level, care. As a licensed home care agency, we also work with all of the long-term care insurance companies. Many of the long-term care insurance companies will require that a licensed agency be in place in order for a policy to be in force. So strictly companion agencies generally will not allow a client to get reimbursed on their long-term care policy. And with regard to long-term care policies, again, concierge level service. We are providing the LTC company daily care notes. We're providing them copies of invoices. Oftentimes they need our RN to go in and do an assessment either every 6 months or once a year. We do that at no charge for our clients. So we provide the whole gamut of care. And we provide the care in the home wherever the home is. So about 70% of our clients are in the homes that they've lived in probably for 40, 50, 60 years. And we also provide care in assisted living facilities, because assisted living facilities are awesome, but sometimes people need one-on-one care, which assisted living facilities generally do not provide. So we will work in assisted living facilities, and we also provide sitter services, both at hospitals and rehabs.
You know, it strikes me that you have two things really, and to simplify it, you have the client care plan. How are you going to handle the client's needs? And then the financing plan on how are you going to pay for that? Is that kind of a simplification?
Yeah, it's a little, maybe that's a little bit oversimplified, but yes, yes to both of those. And you know, we're helping our clients in every way possible. So again, like I said, concierge level service. You know, a lot of times we become a de facto family member for the family. AARP put out a study about a year or so ago that showed, on average, adult children live 280 miles from their you know, from their parents, which is very different. I know when I was a youngster under the age of 10, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, they, Brooklyn or Queens, they lived in apartment buildings or townhouses, and you know, there were multiple relatives on those blocks or in those buildings. Everybody was next door. When kids got married, they moved into the house, or the house next door, the building next door. That's not the case anymore. I know we service clients where there are no children in the state of New York. You know, we have clients where there are kids in California, Florida, Chicago, the Philippines. We've had you know, Germany, Finland, Paris, London. They just, you know, obviously they can't be there, you know, on a minute's notice. We can. So we kind of fill that role. And when we put a caregiver in with our client, we know that if we make the right caregiver client match, we tend to end up with a relationship that can become like a family relationship between you know, between those two partners. And that's our goal each and every day.
You have like almost like a checklist of things you have to find out about.
Absolutely. And as I said, you know, that inquiry call, that you know, that initial inquiry call that we start with each and every client, you know, that can be a half an hour, that can be a 2-hour call. There's, you know, there's no set time limit. Everybody's unique, everybody's different. Oftentimes the more family members that are involved, you know, the more involved the care plan has to be, because everybody's looking at things from a different lens, different angles. So we kind of, you know, walk very carefully and tread very carefully on those family relationships. We want to implement a plan that benefits everybody. It's not just how we're taking care of the client, but how we can take some of the pressure off of you know, the family members.
This is the end of our show. This is Kristina Liu. I'm with Otto Lohse. Rebecca Miller stepped away. We were just interviewing Gregg Balbera, talking about Sensi 24/7 AI virtual care from right at home, Nassau, Suffolk. Gregg, I'm sure we'll have you back on. Thank you again.
Always a pleasure. Happy to be back.